My name is Levi. I'm addicted to poi and I live in Kansas City. My socials, I just use Instagram primarily. I post a little bit on Reddit, but it's Levizzle with 3 Z's. I started glow stringing in 2005 and then moved into using flow lights, which eventually led to poi, which is only since 2017. So my first flow art was actually skateboarding. I didn't really know it at the time that it was a flow art, but it makes sense knowing what I know about the flow arts now and you know, kind of going back and realizing what my brain was doing at that time, why I was so genuinely just like interested and I could just grind it and drill it out. So skateboarding, and then actually found out about glow stringing from a skateboarder. So that kind of led into the glow stringing, which eventually led into everything else, you know, that my counterweight poi is, you know, kind of what I do now with the handles. I like being a little bit different, but having them the equal lights is nice. So the first time that I ever, you know, found out about glow sticking, glow stringing, you know, I was hanging out with a skateboarder and we went to, you know, a little party and someone was playing with glow sticks with their hands. I thought it was kind of like weird and funny. It was like, I get it, you're kind of grooving, like doing your thing. But I was like, I'm not gonna do that, you look silly. But then a guy came through and he had glow sticks on shoestrings and he started doing wraps and bounces and like string manipulation stuff. And I was like, okay, you know what? That's actually kind of cool and like maybe I'll try it. And then you start doing it and you're like, what about this? What about that? And then you realize like how comfortable it is and how it can become an extension of you and you start having fun with it. Get lost and, you know, forget how much time you've been sitting there playing with yourself. Kind of waiting for that question. It's actually a really good one. So the flow state, like on a high level, in my opinion, is, you know, kind of when your brain finds something that it's like super comfortable with, almost vulnerable. It allows your brain to use more of it. It's like focused. It gets rid of all the other senses and whatnot, and you can do something without thinking or caring. Like, oh, I had a bad day. Who cares? I'm like in this state. You know, I'm focused on what I'm doing, and you can do it when you're working. You're, you know, drawing, art, you know, athletics. You can do it pretty much anywhere, but physically, I feel like if you have like a physical art that you're doing, it takes away from other senses, and then you kind of almost zone out and enjoy what you're doing and you don't have to think about it, it just works. Flow arts to me has kind of created a little bit more, and it's become kind of like a language with communicating with yourself. A way that, you know, when you're spinning, you know, you're able to learn something new and think, I learned something, I actually got something from it. You know, you can go through school and you can get an education, you can get a degree, but does it really show how much you progressed? You know, were you really patted on the back? But with flow arts, you're kind of patting yourself on the back. You know, hey, I broke a sweat today. I got a little adrenaline high, you know, kind of a adrenaline rush, runner's high type thing. And I feel good about myself because I got out and I was moving around. Or I learned something new and now I'm like, wow, like all these things are connecting and I feel so good about myself. And you know, it doesn't have to be money or fame, but it's like when you teach something to yourself or you feel like you learned something, you feel accomplished. So you're able to reward yourself. And I feel like the flow arts is just kind of like, how do I talk to myself and kind of love myself, because I can't hate myself when I'm spinning. Like, I'm just happy to do what I'm doing, and I'm always happy when I continue to grow. So flow has impacted me by kind of giving me an outlet to express myself. Not much of a dancer, but I love music, and glow stringing allowed me to like do these little things that impress people, that is also, you know, in the containment of the music and the sound and the rhythm, and you can create patterns and choreography to it without having to necessarily like be super, you know, exaggerated about my own physical body movement. I'm doing something that's a little bit more mathematical and organized with creating patterns and shapes. But I don't necessarily have to, you know, shake my booty or be able to do the wave kind of thing, the worm. And that's kind of how, you know, I got into it and the reason that it's been so great. But now it's, you know, you had a long day, I've been studying, you know, I've been on a long drive. You know, being able to take a little flow break and kind of forget about the things that worry you, that stress you out, that, you know, tire you. And you can be tired, but then spin and almost kind of wake up because maybe you've been bored, or like maybe you're not getting enough stimulation, but then your brain can actually work to think about the things that you're doing. But then you get into the flow state, you feel like it doesn't take any effort at all. So it's meditation to me. What influences my flow most is probably music. I mean, that's where it came from. Like when I would skateboard, I would listen to music. and that would give me some sort of enthusiasm for when I'm doing my tricks or riding into it. And it's the same thing when I was like glow stringing. I want music that's hype, that gives me that feeling that like I'm doing awesome, I'm moving quick, I feel like I'm dancing and just having a great time. And then there's, you know, those times that you want something that's a little bit more somber, beautiful, soulful, and you can have that different kind of flow with it. And it's like, what kind of music am I feeling right now? Like, what kind of like vibe do I want to feel? And when I take a break and like something's been like, I don't know, maybe like I've just been super busy, I'm overwhelmed, then I can listen to something that's like soft and like, I don't know, easy to listen to. And then it gives me that same kind of therapy when I spin. It almost is like, what flavor of like flow do you want today and how do you want it to like affect you? So I would describe my flow style as kind of sporadic because I like to change things up a lot. I don't like to stay in like one mode for a long time. So for a long time I didn't like pattern spinning because it takes so many beats to do it. You know, I'm always enthusiastic about the music, and if I have to do, you know, so many beats, I can't catch the rhythm of a song. So I like to do a lot of bounces and raps and like really quick transitions to land in different stuff to try to synchronize it with the music. Doesn't always work. But then you have those times where you like slow it down and change it up almost as like the different parts of a song, like how you would compose it. And so whenever I'm flowing, I try to like have a breakdown that's hype, that's going with the music. And then there's those like interlude, intermission type things, and you slow it down. Maybe you do something that's technical aesthetically. So, and that's usually kind of the composition of like what ends up happening when I spin. Most of the time, my training sessions are pretty selfish. I'm just freestyle flowing, feeling myself. I just want to enjoy the music and just kind of vibe with what I'm hearing. And then what happens is, you know, I don't focus on what I'm doing, and then I'll find something, I'll accidentally do something, and maybe it's me messing up, but I end up in a spot that I'm like, oh, that was kind of cool. And then I'll just tease that. I'll play with my free flow and then try to get into that or try to come up with something out of it. And where I start in the beginning may not be where I end up, but I'll usually end up finding something that I like from that. And it's generally, I just go for like an organic, like I'll do a trick and then I'll realize that I think I've seen someone do something similar, and then I'll start working on it a little bit. But most of the time I just get out there and I want to get down and do what I'm doing. I think part of the reason that I have a pretty like unnatural like flow practice or flow training is because I don't have a very good flow vocabulary. So I don't know what stuff's called. I almost like categorize it by how it feels. So like when I do something, I learn it. I just remember like the muscle memory of it. I don't know what it's called or how to explain it, but I just try to keep it simple. I've never been like on social medias or anything. So I first heard on Flow of Fire when I finally made a social media account, which was Instagram. And then, you know, it's just the only thing I wanted to follow were people that were spinning. So it was #Poi, Tech Poi, Contact Poi. And seeing like Austin Witherspoon, I think was probably the first person that was like, hey, he's really freaking good. He does some crazy technical stuff that he probably can't explain. And then wait, he's sponsored by who? What is this? Flow and Fire? A team of people that spin? It's like, I'm intrigued. And then I went to Equilibrium, and there's a lot of Flow and Fire people, and they're all insanely talented. And from that point on, I was like, are they Flow and Fire? Are they Flow and Fire? And you know, I see these people and I just appreciate their passion. And that's why I just started seeing like these Flow and Fire people. I think they have the same kind of idea about flow, like why they like it and why they just dig into it and how much it means to them. Flow and Fire kind of sold me the moment I first bought something from Flow and Fire. And you know, coming from glow stringing and stuff like that, I didn't really spin fire back in the day. Like I bought an old set of like cathedral chains in like 2008 that were terrible, and the only thing I did was like an orbital with them because it looked cool. So I never like spun them. I bought a set of Fire Poi from Burt & Kell, Flow on Fire in 2019, and like just a little care message and a little blanket, and was telling me how to take care of my prop, and it just put so much enthusiasm into like why this, you know, ball and rope and handle is important, and how to take care of it, and why you should, and what's the safe way to do things. So I was like, you know what, they really care about their product, and I'm buying the product, they're caring about me. And then after joining the Flow on Fire team, I'm just like, wow, these people are genuinely passionate about the same things that I'm passionate about. So I'm here for the team, you know? I just love hanging out with people like the Flow on Fire team members. My favorite things got to be the team. It's the relationships and the positivity and the, you know, the position for growth. All these people are looking to grow in their individual arts. You know, I prefer poi, but if you're getting really good at hoops and fans, that's fine. I think they're really cool too. I'm gonna keep striving to climb the poi tree, personally. But I think innovation with Flow on Fire is super important. You know, Lost and Flow, they made a new set of handles, you know, that Beacon and Sergio made and produced for Flow on Fire. And, you know, that was down my alley. I was using capsule handles from Flow Toys. But, you know, to take it a step further, they've got the bearings that are built into these handles, and you don't have to have swivels anymore. And swivels always messed up your tosses and changed the game, right? But being able to go to a handle that's got a good size, I'm able to use that same light, and then now they've added a bearing in it. You know, I can do all these new things. So they're constantly looking for, you know, what's gonna be new, what's gonna be perfect for certain kind of styles. You know, continuing to make, you know, new different, you know, knots for the Kevlar heads, you know, coming out with different types of ropes and different ways to make the different ropes. I kind of love like the mechanics and like the weight and the length versus like the amount of grippiness and the density of the rope, like that. I geek out over it, and just like these little things can change the way that the physics of the toss. So like Flow on Fire's got it all. If you want to build something yourself, you can. If you want something that's preset that someone else has already said is great, you can do that. And ultimately, like I've just kind of found like what was my favorite thing. And I couldn't have done that from other companies because they wouldn't have, you know, helped me, or I just wouldn't have had the information available. But I just bought a bunch of little parts and props, and over the last few years, I've come up with my daily driver, I think. Ice heads with capsule handles, well, reactor handles. I would like to contribute more tutorials, you know, try to share a little bit of my style. I think it's a little bit unique. That's why people appreciate my flow, is because when they see me, you know, I'm doing things they haven't seen. They don't necessarily have to be crazy, difficult, or intricate. Just no one's combined them quite like that or did it that way. So I'd love to share what I know, but I also feel like I don't know how to tell you what I know, kind of thing. So I'd like to get better about like understanding what it is I do myself so that I can share that with other people. And ultimately, you know, bringing more positivity and more tech to the flow community. So I'd like to give a shout out to Maggie, my queen. She is the one that's there to always support me during my flow. And then my cat Milo and my dog Scout, because they're my favorite audience. Though they tend to scoot a little bit further away when I start flowing.